Well, hello, friends. Welcome back to Scrapbook Your Legacy with Carrie. I have another two-page layout for you that should go fairly quickly. This one is using Deeper in the Woods, and I am documenting part of our trip out west. This is the part in Wyoming where we are visiting one of the museums prior to going to a wedding. So I'm going to bring in the pages. They are not glued down yet. I just had kind of put them off aside. So this is kind of where we're headed using Deeper in the Woods, and I'll explain about this here. And I'll hold that closer to the camera. All right, some things I wanted you to know because there was a big release on Monday with a new pet collection, the Simple Page Kit for Noteworthy Days, number 10. And then there was also the Q4 Noteworthy Days, but that's been delayed and being released until, I believe, tomorrow, unless they change that, but tomorrow. And then there was also a Halloween promotion going on. And so with that, there are some punch promotions going on. So now with their releases, they are doing some of their punches at 50% off. So the Pet Palace punch, which is just a single punch like one of these. It's not a border punch, right? It's just a single punch. And it's a doghouse and a bone. So I think there's two items that punch out of that. That's on sale for $12.50. And so that's a steal. So if you think you're going to be documenting a lot of pet pages, you know, like a whole album, it might be worth it for you to spend the $12.50. Then the Spider Webs frame punch, which is, you know, a punch of this size, which normally are quite expensive. I want to say like around $29, $30, especially now with the tariffs, because these are all made overseas. That's $14.50. So yes, it's coming in at $29. So if you really like the Spider Webs frame punch, $14.50. The Bats and Stars Border Maker cartridge I do not have. That's on sale for $10. And then the Copper Canyon, if you like that, that is on last chance. The bundle is on last chance, and the journal cards are on last chance. The paper is returning in October. So I just wanted to let you know those things, that they are popular and they're moving them fast, and you can't get the scratch-ons anymore, the transfers. So those are gone. All right. So one thing I want to show you is that I used the stencil that was released back in August with Creative Memories. So this I used actually with a different ink, not one of theirs, but I did a border on this side, and then I did a border on this side. So you see I used the wheatgrass because we're out in the prairie. It is not perfect. There was a learning curve for me with the stencils, and I should have masked. So anyway, this is the beige paper, 12 by 12. So I'm going on that cardstock, not white this time. I'm not doing a frame punch. These wooden papers from Deeper in the Woods, this is the other side, the leaf, which is also beautiful. So you want to be thinking about that when you're cutting these. I gutted, so I have a 10 by 10 square, and then I tore the edge to make it so it's 9.5 by 10. And then this page, which you also want to make sure, you know, always check the other side. This is a beautiful check in like the avocado and tones. So this is, I measured it. The check is 4.5 by 12. The wood is 10 by 10, but torn down to 9.5. And then I have some layers that I'm going to be bringing in, and I'll tell you the sizes of those. So anyway, we're going to start getting this. I'm going to have that centered like that. So I'll have it one inch from the bottom and 1 inch from the top. And then this, I'm going to have it come in so it gives it a nice border look over here. All right, so we're going to get those down. So this museum was all right, so here it comes. This is a long name, the National Historic Trails Interpretive Center. Okay, that is where we were. We had been at Fort Casper prior to this, and when we were at Fort Caspar, because that's where the different migrant trails went through and crossed the Platte River. So there was a bridge there that it's not there anymore. There was a piece of it. That bridge was 3 football fields long, and they had it. So I'm gonna do this right here from 6 in the center over to 6.5. I'm gonna do the same on the bottom. And not all the papers, like the designer papers, there's like a slight differentiation from the cardstock. And then we're going to get this on. I still have to order repositional adhesive. I just have not done that yet. I'm procrastinating. I was actually waiting for the Q4 Noteworthy Days page kits to come out, and I just figured I would order everything all at once and save myself on that one. All right, so we're gonna, okay, and the other thing is I inked all the edges of my papers. You do not have to do that. That's something I just like to do. You do not have to do it. So anyway, so when we were at Fort Caspar, they told us, take the time, if you have time, to go up to this historic trails interpretive center and really take the time to go through it. And we did not realize Fort Caspar was really cool, but this was even cooler. And I did not realize it's a small museum, but you could spend a lot of time there, and they have a really neat award-winning like wax figure reenactment kind of thing, which I have pictures of that. We did not have time to see that, but we all agreed like we want to go back there. And also one of my sons is very much into trains. And so this area is big with the Union, I hope I get it right, the Union Pacific Railroad. It was started in Cheyenne, and so we're just outside Cheyenne by about, I don't know, hour and a half. So big area in Wyoming. There's a lot to do in Wyoming. We really think it's beautiful, and there's plenty to do outside of Yellowstone and Grand Tetons, which are gorgeous. But I would say don't go peak season because it is super, super busy. All right, so I wanted to show you that some of my embellishments, which you will be seeing, this is one of the laser cut borders for Deeper in the Woods. So I fussy cut this into individual leaf clusters to put with my photos. So I still have a full border here if I choose to use it that way, but I did change it a little bit. All right, I think I may have shared this in another video, but this trail center, so there were 4 trails that crossed: the Oregon Trail, the Mormon Trail, the California Trail, and the Pony Express and Transcontinental Telegraph Trail corridor. There's a name for you. So anyway, I did not know any of that. And so it was very cool to hear that. And this museum had it all. Like, there was a lot of items for the Pony Express. That was quite a feat. So here's a sticker I have that I'm going to use as part of my title. And that's going to go over here. And then I have 2 postcards that I am going to put into a peekaboo pocket. So I'll have them here, but then they're going to go somewhere else. So I'm going to flip these around. So this is, it's kind of hard to see. The lighting tonight is terrible, but the prairie out here is just huge, and you can kind of see it better in this photo because they shot this picture with that wagon. Let me just say, the wagons are not like the movies. They are teeny tiny. Just when you think like, oh, you know, they crossed the great North American continent with everything in tow, but no, their wagons were tiny. And it was interesting. We learned that the Mormons, and I may have shared this in another video, so I'm sorry if I'm being repetitive. This is going to go under the postcards, my journaling, and this card with the trees on it, because we're not in the forest, but we're on the prairie, and there's really not. And then these will be in a peekaboo pocket underneath. So this is acting as my title. and as well as the stickers. So that's gonna go like that. So I just want to make sure that I have room here. So we're gonna bring that in. And then I have got peekaboo pockets that are gonna go here. So, all right, here is the wagon. Now, mind you, this wagon is about maybe 4 feet wide by about 8 to 10 feet long. That's it. It's like a large half bath, I'm just gonna say. I don't know how they got furniture across. They must have had multiple wagons. So here's some of the interpretive trail things. I wish we had seen that. So I'm not sure like who these people were representing, but they did say, let me bring it back into the camera. So there you can see some of it. There's a broken down wagon. So it was not an easy trek that they took across country. What I learned, so this is going to be a peekaboo pocket here over the wagon. All right, so I'm going to leave that off as well. And then I have another peekaboo pocket. So here's the train, because the Union Pacific came through, and the Transcontinental Railroad at one point came through. So here's a wagon out in front of the museum. And then this is the entrance to the museum, which is a little dark, but my husband and my son, one of my sons, is over there. So the train will go here, and then that will go there, and then they're both going to have, there's going to be a lot of peekaboo pockets over here, so we're just going to leave that off. And then I create a green tag. So all I did was folded it in half. So if you don't have anything to die cut or punch this, I just fold it in half, and I did a shallow one. So I just cut from tip up to where I wanted it shallow, and then, you know, I'm not folding it. So that's going to come in here about a 1/2 inch from the edge, and then I'll lay these on top. So that's the museum, looking across some of the grass, and this is all up on a bluff over the river valley where the fort is. And then I took a picture of this because this is my last name, and it was on a rock inside the museum. So they had a lot of cool artifacts where people had carved their names as they were entering the west here. This was really the gateway to going west. So a lot of history in this area. It's really incredible. We love it. We really enjoyed it. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start laying this down, and then we'll get to the embellishing. I think this is how I want this. I might bring this over a little closer to this, create a little more space over there, or I might bring this over a little bit. Maybe I'll go this way a little and have that there. Trying to decide how we want that. Anyway, let's get this stuff laid down. But anyway, if you please comment if you have been out to Wyoming, and if you have been to Casper and the Cheyenne area, or if you've gone out to the parks, because those are not far away. They're about 3 hours from this area that we were in for Grand Tetons and Yellowstone. It's a beautiful drive across open grasslands out to that area. Anyway, yeah, comment below. Have you done this? What was your favorite thing to do in Wyoming if you've been out there? And yeah, just let me know what you have done. And then, are you using the Deeper in the Woods collection? You know, let me know about that. And then we'd love to do Starry Nights. We had quite a bright moon, so we were not doing Starry Nights out here. It was too bright. Like when you're out there and there's no light pollution, then it's, you know, it's very dark and you can see the stars great, or with a full moon, it's like daylight and you don't really get to see much of anything. But it's still just really beautiful. And we enjoy this. So this is, we had a wedding to go to this same night. So this is what we did in the morning while we were waiting to get ready to go to the wedding. We're like, oh, you know, we've got time, so let's just go and see what's out here and make the most of it and see if we want to come back. And there's no skyscrapers either. When you're in these cities, they're all old Western. Let me make sure I'm not over. There we go. I want it to come to the bottom. Go up to the top there. There we go. So I just want to carry this avocado color around. And these are going to go on here just like that, centered. So we will get those down. You know, when you go out west, what kinds of things do you like to do? And, you know, how have you documented those? We have, I think I've shared this in another video, but my husband really felt very strongly about getting the boys to as many of the national parks as we could. And his job, because he travels so much, has, and he's earned all these points from traveling, has really afforded us the ability to do some amazing trips that we wouldn't otherwise be able to do. So it's hard having him travel all the time, but I'm not even going to take the sticker off its thing. We're just going to stick it down with some adhesive. And I had this coming out from behind here. So we're just going to put that down like that. And so you can see most of it, but then when the postcard's over here, you'll see the title fully. But this has a nice vintage look to it. So I like how that looks. All right, so on the other side, excuse me, my stomach is, I haven't eaten anything since breakfast. Don't ask me how I get through the day, but anyway, here is a grid that I'm going to do over here. So these are some of the Pony Express items, the stamps, the letters. You can see the horse there. So they had all these items from the Pony Express, and I thought that was so cool. It's hard to get pictures. Okay, and then look at this. All right, so out west, they had all of these things about how you would trade, all right? So think about it. In the day, one horse for one gun. That was considered a fair trade. One horse for one gun. That wouldn't fly today. But I'm just saying, it's very interesting. And oddly enough, out there, both of those would be equally important. You need a horse to get from point A to point B, and you're going to need a gun to get from point A to point B, because not all of the Native Americans at the time were friendly, but people were learning to trade, and you probably weren't just protecting yourself from the Native Americans, you were probably also protecting yourself from crazies who were crossing the continent and probably were stealing things from people. So you had to protect yourself, I'm sure, on many different levels. We did talk to a man at Fort Casper, and we were asking him, because he looked like someone, if you've ever seen the show Alone, he looked like someone who could actually go on the show and survive. He had all the skill sets, and he knew how to do all of that. And so we were talking with him about how they would trade. So here's a picture of the inside of the wagon. So you can see it is just tiny, tiny, like maybe a little bit wider than a twin bed, or about a twin bed. I don't even know if a twin bed mattress would fit in there, but this is what you traveled in. I mean, and they had a simulator there. So my husband and I got in the simulator. So they actually took a wagon with oxen and crossed the Platte River and did all these cool things. I think this is supposed to actually maybe go up here or over here. So we're going to do that. And then I took pictures, right? So this was something I shared in one of my videos, that when you're going to historical places, to take pictures of signs. So this one says, although very little is known about what the Casper area was like in 1812, so this is what was going on then, some information is available. So the Lakota, Sioux, Shoshone, Arapaho, Crow, and Cheyenne people crossed through the area. This was a neutral land between recognized tribal zones. So that's amazing. Wyoming was considered a neutral area, like a Switzerland. The North Platte River was wider during the spring runoff than it is now. So they get a ton of snow in this area. I did Google that. The 7-member Robert Stewart Party, returning from Oregon in 1812, set up a temporary cabin near Bessemer Bend to spend the winter. It was the first log cabin in what is now Wyoming. So that was 1812, first log cabin. And they talked about the number of, like there was a historic cattle drive that came through with tens of thousands of cattle that they drove from like California out to here. So it's interesting. Here's, they had a Pony Express rifle. So every person who rode on the Pony Express on that trail had to carry a gun. So here is, look at the cut work, the etching work in that. And then there is the Pony Express. That's so cool. I just thought that was beautiful. So I had to take a picture of it. And then the rifle from afar, but that they'd have to carry that. And then they had a Pony Express saddle there, and they would sign it. So I thought that was cool too, that they would sign the saddle. So you always knew who had ridden on the Pony Express, and then they would change their horses as they went. All right, so we've got the avocado green over here. I brought it over here in squares. And then these are the things that I cut apart, all right? So here it is, all right? And then I cut it apart. It's not perfect, but you're not gonna see all the imperfect parts. So that is how I'm gonna do the embellishing. Couldn't come up with that word. So we'll just work that in. This is going to be a very simple page. So I'm going to have one piece over in here. So that will come out from here and fill in this area. Again, I'll have the title elsewhere. So we're not lacking anything there. And then I'm going to come in with stickers. Here's the part of the sticker pack. Okay, so you can see that. A lot of acorns, leaves, and trees. I'm realizing now as I do these things that you really need 2 sets of embellishments, 2 sets of stickers to complete a full album, especially if you really want to embellish. But I'm keeping this page simple. So we're just going to work with it and stretch our embellishment clusters by cutting them apart if necessary. And just using them differently. That's something I like to do. I like to use things in different ways than they are intended. So we're just going to have this peeking out around. Oh, I need to re-glue this edge or re-stick it down. I'm sorry that my arm is in the way. All right, and then I think this is how I want the grid. And I am going to eyeball it. So here's hoping. I really want it closer to the inside. So I'm going to take these over here and these over here so I remember where they're going. And then we're just going to start laying it down. I would use my grid thing, but you know what? I'm being lazy and I don't feel like using my grid thing because I've shown it in other videos. So we're just going to go for it. But anyway, yes. So from here we went to, when we were done with this, we went to a wedding. I'm not going to be showing that page, but we did go to a wedding over near Jackson Hole. And it was as the sun was setting, and it had all these painted cliffs behind. It was at a private home, and it was beautiful. And so we enjoyed a 3-hour drive. We are crazy. We don't mind driving long distances when we're out west and seeing everything because it's all stuff that we don't get to see here. And you know, we're in the south, and if we were still up in the northeast, there's trees everywhere. You don't have this big sky. Like when they say it's big sky country, it is no joke. It is sky as far as the eye can see, and prairie as far, you know, grasslands as far as the eye can see. You know, this gentleman at the fort was like, these were the best, some of the best grazing lands back in the day. So yeah, it's a very interesting history. So we went to this wedding over near Jackson Hole with these painted cliffs, and there were 2 golden eagles flying over while the bride and groom were saying their vows. So that was beautiful. And then it was all wildflowers for the wedding. So it was the flowers that she picked, and the girls' dresses, you know, for the bridesmaids, were all the colors in the cliffs. I mean, it was just remarkable. It was just absolutely beautiful. And the pastor who did the ceremony, he was wearing a cowboy hat and a leather vest and boots, and the bride was wearing boots under her dress. So we just all chuckled at that. So it was a beautiful, beautiful wedding, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. And these are friends of ours who go to church with us. And my husband and I had said, like, you know, it's so nice to be able to say, you know, I'm so glad that we got to come to the wedding and experience it with you, rather than like, oh, I wish we could have gone, right? And so I'm so glad we were able to go. And then we all got, because they're connected to Chick-fil-A, we all got Chick-fil-A cards for a free sandwich as like a favor, like a wedding favor. So I thought that was fun. I have to find them. Isn't that weird? Like, we have them. I don't know where they went unless one of my sons took them. But anyway, yeah, so we did that and then stayed there until 9 o'clock. Of course, this was July, so the sun was high for a long time. And then we drove back and got back at midnight. And it was a nice drive. It was beautiful because the roads are straight. And, you know, full moon, so it was a beautiful ride back. And I'm so sorry you have to watch me do this, but anyway, this is the Interpretive Trail Center. So yes, so we enjoyed this. All right, so what I plan to do is we're going to put these over here and see how I was trying to cut around some of these. So we're just going to cover that up, and we're going to cover up the bottom with stickers. And then these are going to come out from behind here. We're going to do some of that. And then this will come out from behind there. And then I've got some stickers. And actually, I do want to put some stickers. Let me see. There's like a single sticker here. So I'm going to put this up in behind this and just kind of have that come over a little more this way. So that kind of finishes that out. I might put acorn up there. We'll see. And then I do have a piece of ephemera here, embellishment that we're going to use. So this has the wood. And that's gonna come over here and break through that boundary here to make it a little more interesting. I'm not sure. I think I want it to go on top. I'll put that up on foam squares. All right, so let's get these put down. We'll get this one put down over here. And I am just gonna do that because these are heavy duty. This is like heavy duty cardstock, cardboard, like, so I don't need to do the whole thing. And then I wanted a couple of the bigger acorns. All right, these two are the same size. All right, so we'll put these over here. I had thought about using the pine tree punch and doing that, but we weren't around pine trees. We were out on the prairie. So I didn't feel like that was appropriate. So yes. All right, so let's do that and hide that awkward cut off piece. And then it's gonna stick there. So we're gonna do this and we'll attach it under here. And we do wanna do that. There we go. So that's going down. And let me get some, see if I have some big, am I running out? No, I still have one thing left. I've got to get foam squares. Things that you need to keep on hand, right? When you're trying to do stuff. So yes, let me know, comment below if you've been out to Wyoming. And if you've been to the Casper area and Cheyenne. Cheyenne is a really cool city. So I'll be showing that because that's the railroad. I really don't want to cover up that horse. Maybe I'll come up. Where do I want this to go? Maybe we'll do that. You can see the horse's head that way. So we'll just do that. Okay. We were out in the wilderness, but we were not in the pine tree. So trying to be a little accurate with that. And then let me see if I do want another sticker. I don't know how this will, natural bliss, could do that. Or I could do sunbeams. It was a sunny day. It was beautiful. It's not exactly sunbeams coming through trees. I'm not going to put this up on foam squares just because I don't want the page to get too thick. All right, and I've got my journaling, which says, the afternoon before the wedding, we went to the National Historic Trails Interpretive Center. It was a quick visit, and we want to go back there. There was a simulated wagon ride. Can't imagine doing that for hundreds of miles. And then the Pony Express items were amazing. So the simulated wagon ride was rough. It was really rough. And if you looked at the screen in front of you sitting in this wagon, you actually would get a little motion sick. It wasn't a long ride, but it just made me appreciate how hard it must have been crossing this country. And I would say where we were in Wyoming, it was relatively flat. When you think that as the further out you get, the more canyon it get, you get a lot more of these deep ruts in the ground that actually go down into canyonlands and then down into the Grand Canyon. So the topography changes incredibly so. And then you've got mountains periodically. So trying to navigate all that in a wagon and then crossing rivers. And then, when we arrived in Colorado, so this was the next day that we were at this museum, we were in a hailstorm on the highway. And then that day and then another day, there was torrential rain out there. Well, who knew that the grasslands would actually have flash floods? So we got to see that. So then, then I imagined going in a wagon with a flash flood and just trying to maintain a wagon, trying to stay alive, like all that, wild animals, just crazy. So I feel like I almost stamped the word brave here because I thought it took such a brave person to do this. But I also learned that women were given land during this. So I thought that was very cool that a woman could go out west on a trail and get land. She did not have to have a husband. So different times, different things, but it was ahead of its time in that women could go out west and own land. So I thought that was really cool. I would take a brave woman. And then the other interesting thing we learned with the Mormon trail is that the first group of Mormons that went out west pulled their wagons by hand. And when they got out west, they sent word back that you might want oxen. And so then everyone who went out after had a team of oxen or an oxen to pull an ox, not an oxen, an ox to pull their wagon. So imagine, again, pulling a wagon by hand, like strapped into it and trying to make it go. And you're all walking hundreds of miles. So we're in Wyoming. They're going to go to what's now Salt Lake City, Utah, but that was Zion at the time. So yeah, lots of interesting things. I hope you enjoyed this layout. Again, this is Deeper in the Woods. Tore the wood paper. I gave you the measurements. This check is 6.5 by 12. This was a 10 by 10 square that I used the tearing tool on. And then I did a grid over here for all my supporting photos from the museum with the avocado paper. And then I used the stencil. So it's a mirror for the most part. And then we'll come in with the peekaboo pockets once I have the page protectors on. So that's how that will work. And then the postcards, which got hidden underneath. All right, so this will be my title. All right, that says it all. Casper, Wyoming, National Historic Trails Interpretive Center. Don't say that too fast. Well worth it. So if you go out to Wyoming, go see these places. They're worth it. So that is what the finished piece will look like once the peekaboo pockets are on. I hope you enjoyed this video. This one was a little quicker. I really appreciate you coming to watch my videos. I hope they're inspiring for you. I hope I'm not just rambling for you. I try to make it interesting and tell you what I'm doing, which isn't that easy. But anyway, I do appreciate you coming by. I've been watching my those who are subscribing, it's been going up and views are going up. So please like and subscribe. And again, you can find me over at YouTube. Well, this is YouTube. Over at Facebook under the same name, Scrapbook Your Legacy with Carrie. And then I'm also a Creative Memories consultant, and you can find me as Carrie Wallace at Creative Memories if you don't have an advisor. Anyway, let me know how you're using your papers, and please comment about your travels and where you like to go. Thank you for joining me this week. I will see what I bring you next week. You never know. But anyway, have a wonderful evening and a very blessed end to your week. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.